Welcome back, everyone, to the channel. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is going to be a little different than what we normally do on here. As you can see, obviously, Jacob is not joining me today. I'm not going to speak on some of the things that have gone on in our personal lives, but if you're in the loop, and if you aren't also, just send up thoughts and prayers for Jacob and his family going through some hard times right now. So I don't know when Jacob will be back on this channel, but we're gonna rock out solo today. I just wanted to come on here. I wanted to come on here and give some of my first impressions for the season. The season is about 2.5 weeks old now. I'm recording this video on Sunday, November 10th. It's about 6 p.m. So there have been some games that have been played today. But I wanted to come on here and give some of my first impressions, some teams and players that I've liked, and on the opposite end of the spectrum, some teams and players that I have disliked. It's been a busy first 2.5 weeks, to say the least. There have been some really, really fun times had in the league. We're about to start in-season tournament play this week. That should be hype. I'm excited for that. So yeah, let's go ahead and let's dive right into these first impressions. To start out, the Cavs are 11-0. Yeah, it's crazy that the Cavs are the last undefeated team in the NBA, but they have started the season 11-0. How crazy is that? They have been unbelievably efficient, though. They have the league's #1 offense through the first 2-3 weeks. Darius Garland, a player who I was really, really worried about going into this season, has come out and he has played some really good basketball as the point guard of the team. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell has been Donovan Mitchell. He's been the player that we know as an All-NBA player. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen have held it down defensively in the paint, and Evan Mobley has been really good offensively, too. He's been able to stretch out to the three-point line. He's been able to play make. Jared Allen has been on the glass offensively and defensively. And their bench has been really solid, too. Guys like Karis LeVert and Ty Jerome. Isaac Okoro is knocking down his corner threes, and you know he's going to defend. But guys like Dean Wade, they've got some good things going in Cleveland right now. And I just got to say shout out to Coach Kenny Atkinson. Kenny Atkinson coming over from Golden State before the season. Been a head coach before, of course, in Brooklyn, and had some success with that team with D'Angelo Russell in those pre-COVID Brooklyn Nets teams. But yeah, the Cavs, man, the Cavs look really good. They play the Celtics coming up here soon, so that will be an interesting matchup, as the Celtics, of course, are the second best team in the Eastern Conference with just a couple of losses. Or they only have one. They either have one or two at this point. They won today against Milwaukee, though. We'll touch on Milwaukee here in a minute. But yeah, the Cavs have been the best team so far. They've looked like it the entire time. And obviously, you don't expect it to, continue throughout the season. But for someone who had the Cavs as their 8 seed coming into the season, they have exceeded all of my expectations up until this point, and they look like a really, really good team. Out west for me, it's all about OKC. It is all about the OKC Thunder, man. They look incredible. They look really, really good. The league's #1 defense by a mile. It's not even close between them and the second place team. They clamp. They are averaging up over 13 steals a game through the first 10 games of the season. Guys like Lou Dort and Alex Caruso, obviously Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins. They're just so deep. They have so many capable three-point shooters. Chet Holmgren has been amazing to start the season. The opening night game, or their first game at least, against the Denver Nuggets, he outdueled Nikola Jokic, I would say. He went right at Nikola Jokic all night and took it to him as the Thunder went into Denver and got a win. The Thunder lost to Denver last week, lost their first game to Denver after starting out 8-0. But OKC has been the best team in the Western Conference so far. And they haven't even been that good offensively yet. They haven't even really, hit their stride offensively. I feel like Shai still has another level to tap into this year. I feel like they could be shooting better, have better shot selection. I think they turned the ball over a little bit. Jalen Williams hasn't been incredible yet, I feel like. So OKC has been great, and they will continue to be great in my eyes. Right below them, though, you got the Suns and the Warriors coming in at second and third in the Western Conference. The Phoenix Suns have been really good. Obviously, KD and Book, you know what you're going to get from them. And unfortunately, KD is going to be out for a few weeks with a strained calf. But Bradley Beal, I know we were all super critical of Bradley Beal last year, but Bradley Beal has started the season really, really nicely for the Suns. He's been shooting efficiently. He's been good as a secondary playmaker. And he's just kind of fit into his role. I think that's something that he had trouble doing last season. But he's done a really good job of that to start the season. I've had my gripes with Jusuf Nurkic throughout the first few weeks, but as of the last couple of games at least, he has looked better. First 8 or so games could not say the same. Jusuf Nurkic looked like he was lost on the floor out there at times. But Ryan Dunn, a rookie for the Suns, who I have never been high on. If I were a GM of a team, if I were a draft scout, I would have missed so badly on Ryan Dunn. He's already made more threes in his NBA tenure through 10 games than he did his entire time at Virginia in college. And he's been really good for the Suns in kind of some spot minutes. He started a few games. Tyus Jones has been such a good point guard for the Suns, just kind of floor setter, and he's been knocking down his threes. They're a team that I feel like can keep this pace up. I feel like Coach Bud has them playing good ball. Obviously, defensively, you don't expect them to be great, but offensively, they look like a well-oiled machine right now. It's going to be interesting to see over these next 2 weeks, though, without Kevin Durant, how they look. And I doubt that they'll rush him to come back, so maybe they'll fall down the standings a little bit just because of that. But I like the direction the Suns are heading this year. The same goes for the Golden State Warriors. I know we were on here last doing our Western Conference standings, and Jacob and Tanner were significantly lower on the Golden State Warriors than I was. And the Warriors have kind of proven everything that I thought that they could be, and then some. Because, Steph Curry missed a week. Steph Curry has already missed a week of time, and they won some big games in that time span. I can't say enough about how good Buddy Hield has been. I can't say enough about how good Trace Jackson Davis has been. Brandon Podziemski, Moses Moody. Jonathan Kuminga hasn't even been that great, and I know that they're the trade rumors surrounding him. And even when Steph Curry was out, Jonathan Kuminga was not inserted into the starting lineup, which is kind of strange for a 22, 23-year-old player who's on the rise and had a really good year last year. But Andrew Wiggins has stepped back into the guy that we know he can be. Not going to say all-star starter Wiggs is back, but Wiggs has been knocking down shots. He's been playing really good defense. And Golden State just looks really good. They've looked really good. I know they got shelled by Cleveland the other night, but other than that game, they have looked really, really good to start this season, and I expect them to keep up this level of play. I don't expect them to maybe win 55 games, but Golden State looks like a playoff team, and they look like a team that will have to be reckoned with, especially if their offense is flowing like it has been so far. Now to the opposite end of the spectrum. There are two teams out east who stick out at the bottom of the standings for different reasons, but we'll go ahead and we'll get the Sixers out of the way. I wish Jacob was here today because he's watched more Sixers than I have. I'll admit, after we knew Paul George was going to play to start the season, I wasn't really tapped into the Sixers that much, and now that Tyrese Maxey is going to be out for a little while, I don't know how tapped in I will be to the Sixers. Whenever Joel Embiid comes back, I'm sure I'll pay attention closely to his first game or two to see if there's a considerable difference than what they've exhibited so far. But it's been rough for the Sixers. They came into the night 1-7. They're playing the Hornets tonight. Yeah, without two of their main guys for most of the games, they just have no continuity on offense. They've been down there with the league's worst three-point shooting teams. And in today's NBA climate, if you're not chucking 53s a game and if you're not making like 15 of them, you don't really stand a chance in a regular season NBA game. You can call it the Boston Celtics Joe Mazzulla effect if you want, but the Sixers have struggled to kind of keep up offensively. I feel like defensively they've been a solid team in the games that I've watched at least. They've got some good role players, but they just need direction. They need direction from their main guys, and they haven't had that. So their slow start, you can attribute it to pretty obvious things. For this other team, though, it's a little tougher to point out. The Milwaukee Bucks are 2-8. the Milwaukee Bucks are 2-8 to start the season, with Dame and Giannis looking pretty good. Dame and Giannis have had some really good games to start this season. Role players have been, a little questionable at times. I'm talking about Brook Lopez. I'm talking about Bobby Portis. I'm talking about Gary Trent Jr. And of course, they don't have Chris Middleton yet, but even despite all that, they have had some head-scratching losses. They've had some head-scratching moments. And I watched the fourth quarter of their game today against the Celtics, and there were just possessions where they were lost. They were up in the fourth quarter of that game. They were playing good basketball up until that fourth quarter. Giannis ended with 40-plus points in today's game. But they just look like they have no idea what to do in the half court. It feels like they're just waiting for Dame and Giannis to bail them out every possession. And the threes that they hit, I don't think that they're a product of good basketball. I just think that they're either grenade threes or they're, just open looks created off of double teams, which, is something that doesn't come open for them every possession. Doc Rivers, I know Jacob has his qualms with Doc Rivers, of course, being the coach of his team for a long time, but, I've never had Doc Rivers qualms. It looks rough. It looks rough right now. Their depth is not good if this is what their depth is going to produce on a consistent basis. They need a backup point guard. They need somebody. I don't even know if you can say they need somebody. They look like they need a couple of things out there. And the thing is, they've got the star power. They've got the championship pedigree. They've got guys that can get it done on the highest level, but it's just like, man, they don't look like a championship level team. They lost to the Brooklyn Nets. They have gotten blown out in some games. They had 2 games against Cleveland where they very easily could have won, but they really choked at least one of those games away. So I don't know where the Bucks can, go from here. I expect them to, maybe start winning some games. I don't expect them to, go 2 for 8 in their next 10-game stretch. Now, still at this point, I expect them to, be there in the top 8 in the Eastern Conference for a playoff seed. But, past that, it's like, man, this team doesn't look like they can really compete. And lucky for them, the Eastern Conference hasn't been overly competitive yet, like the Western Conference has been. Like, I think entering today, the Western Conference has 11 teams over 500. Think about that. And the Eastern Conference has 2. Just the Celtics and the Cavs, who are, far and away the best teams in the Eastern Conference. But luckily for the Bucks, despite their struggles, they're not all the way down the pecking order yet. They've got some work to do, obviously, but they definitely stand out among all the teams who are, in that group of Eastern Conference teams who, you look to rise up in the standings. They're the team that looks, I guess, the bleakest right now and have had the bleakest start. One last team I really wanted to touch on that has really been a strong first impression for me, and they've started to heat it up a little bit over the past week. I touched on their win over the Thunder a little earlier. The Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets kind of have some of the same things that I said with the Sixers, where I just don't know if they have consistent enough three-point shooting. Through the first 10 or 11 games, this is the most threes Jokic has taken and made, thankfully, in his career ever, by a wide margin. They're asking him to do a lot offensively. He is the league's leading scorer at this date. Actually, that's not true. He was as of 2 days ago. Anthony Davis is now. But he's a top 5 scorer in the league, and of course he's averaging a triple-double still. But Nikola Jokic, we know of his greatness, but outside of Jokic, who do you count on for consistent perimeter production if you're not going to get it from Jamal Murray? Jamal Murray's looked bad to start the season. And he didn't have a really great end to last year either. A lot of people have started to ask, has the league figured out Jamal Murray? And I don't know if I'd go that far. But it's been a rough start for the Nuggets. Russell Westbrook, he had a really good game against the Thunder the other night. But other than that, He has been the least efficient scorer in the league through the first 10 games, which is not a good sign. They've had to rely heavily on guys like Julian Strawther, Christian Brown, and Peyton Watson to shoot three-point shots, and they haven't done that very efficiently to start the season. Like I said, they've started to win some games. They've had a pretty easy schedule, though, up until this point. And it will only get tougher from here as they're playing in the toughest division in basketball with the Thunder and the Timberwolves a part of their division. So I have some questions about the Nuggets. They aren't as overpowering as I thought they would be. You know, teams, I'm not ready to say that they're down there with the Bucks yet, of course, because they've kind of turned some things around and they've shown flashes that they are who they have been, at least. But I'm still not sold on the Nuggets as a top 5 seed in the Western Conference at this point. A couple more players that I've liked to start the season. I touched on Chet Holmgren, Darius Garland, and Buddy Hield already. There are 3 of my 5. I've got 5 here. I've got 5 players that I like and 5 that I've disliked. Another guy that I've liked this season, and what's not to like about the start of the season for Norman Powell? I mean, we saw the comments that he made talking about Paul George and replacing his production, saying that Paul George wasn't that crucial to their team. And I mean, if Norman Powell is going to average 26 points and shoot 50% from 3, maybe Paul George wasn't that impactful. I won't go that far. But yeah, Norman Powell has been really good. I'd say that he is I'd say that he's in first place for MIP right now. He is averaging more than like 10 plus points than he was at last year. He's shooting way better, of course, and obviously, you wouldn't expect him to keep this pace up. But Norman Powell has been incredible to start the season for the Clippers as their second option alongside James Harden. And I mean, he's their scoring leader, but obviously James Harden is the engine that makes that team go. Another guy, though, a guy that I've had so much fun watching this season, and his team is not good. They will probably not make the playoffs, but LaMelo Ball to start the season has been really, really fun to watch under Charles Lee and that new Hornets offense. You can say a lot of the same things for Trey Mann too. It just looks like they have freedom. It looks like that team plays so free. They have so much, leeway in that offense. And for a player like LaMelo, who we've seen throughout the years, kind of thrive the most under a free-flowing system, This is made for him. This is made for him, and he's given us some really good moments to start the season. He is averaging up over 25 points a game. He's up around 10 assists, and his efficiency is pretty good to start the season. He's at 45%, 38% from 3. And yeah, LaMelo Ball is really, really good in this new Hornets offense. And it's fun to see LaMelo Ball back just in general from injury, but he has looked really, really nice. Some players I've disliked on the opposite end of the spectrum. I've touched on Brook Lopez. I've said all I need to say about Brook Lopez. Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton has some of the same things that I have with Jamal Murray. And they're 2 different players, and their qualms are a little different. I just feel like Tyrese Halliburton has been a little predictable to start the season. I feel like at this point, teams know that in the first half of games, especially with Pascal Siakam being there now, Tyrese Halliburton is looking to get his teammates involved. He's looking to get his teammates involved in the first half of games. You look at his shot attempts in the first half compared to the second half. They double. They double in the second half because he's looking to get his teammates involved in the first half. And I think teams are catching on to this. They're starting to play more drops against him. They're starting to give him, more open looks, and he's just not taking them. He's not taking them in the first halves of games. So I feel like This is a fix that can be made, and obviously this game script doesn't go for every game, but it is a consistent thing that we've seen for a little while now. So I think it's just something to look out for. The Pacers haven't been great to start the season. I know they got off to a really rough start. They've started to win some games, but offensively they don't look as good as they did last year, and I think part of that is because of the predictability of Tyrese Halliburton. Another guy whose offensive game I'm going to be a little critical of. I'm going to be a little critical of Victor Wembanyama. And I've seen other people be critical of Victor Wembanyama too. I don't mind. I'll say this. I don't mind the shot selection. He came out and he said that the Spurs staff is wanting him to take the shots that he is, and he's taking a lot of moving shots. He's settling for a lot of jump shots. It's a long-term plan, he says. He wants to get these shots up now to get comfortable taking them, so in the long term he will have the confidence to and the ability to, in his mind, whenever he feels like he has reached his peak. And it also is a play to make the defense honest and respected as well. So I get that part. But man, if we're thinking just about right now, I'm not going to be one of those guys that says that, just have him post up every play, have him, because smaller defenders are guarding him this year. They're guarding him with smaller defenders. They're guarding him with wings, and at some points they're fronting him with guards and having the big kind of roam behind him. He's not getting to the free throw line as much as I would like. And like I said throughout this video, it's a 10-11 game sample size, and I think they'll continue to experiment with things. Having Chris Paul there, I didn't expect it to have as big of an impact as some people said it would, but he's learning. He's learning. He's 19, 20 years old. So I'm not going to be overly critical, but I will say the shot selection I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of at this point, but I get it. I will say I get it. Patrick Williams of the Bulls has been a net negative all season long offensively. He does not warrant any defensive attention, just a net offensive negative, and I think at this point I don't see any path that he becomes much of an offensive player in his career. Another guy who I have some of the same worries for, and I know that this rookie class in totality has not been, a really strong, flashy rookie class. So far, Zach Edey has been the best player. Zaccharie Risacher had a really good game against the Knicks the other night. But there hasn't really been, a breakaway rookie. There isn't even a rookie averaging over 12 points a game right now. But Alex Sarr. I'm going to be keeping an eye out on Alex Sarr, but through the first 10 or 11 games, the offensive potential is a little hazy for me. Defensively, he's really good. And I can say, obviously, the same thing for Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama, of course, is transcendent as a defender. He's the best individual defender in the league. Patrick Williams also, even though he's a net negative offensive player, he's a really good defender. And Alex Sarr also projects to be a really good defender. But yeah, offensively, for him to be the second overall pick and to have kind of shown some of the things that he did throughout the pre-draft process in Australia and the NBL, it doesn't look super translatable right now. He's missing a lot of his shots. He's shooting like 20% from three, and teams are not respecting it. Like I said, it's the first 10 or 11 games. I don't want to be super critical, but I've got my eye out on Alex Sarr. But yeah, those are just some of the things that I've noticed so far, some things that have caught my eye. Like I said, it's been a really fun first couple weeks of the season. I'm really looking forward to the in-season tournament. I would still say if I had to list my top 5 teams right now, I would still go Celtics number 1. I'm going OKC number 2. I think OKC is incredible. I'll go Cavs number 3. 11-0 is undeniable. And even I don't like talking about but when the playoffs come, are they going to be able to do this? I'm here for the moment. I'm here for the Cavs' undefeated run to see how far it goes. So I got the Cavs at 3. I'm going to go with the Phoenix Suns at 4. I expect them to be lower, going forward without Kevin Durant, of course. And it's either the Golden State Warriors or the Minnesota Timberwolves for number 5. I think I'm going to go with the Golden State Warriors, though, just with how strong they've started the season. So thank you all for watching. Like I said, this is different than what we normally do on here. It's a little weird, but I had to get on here. I had to give my first impressions. I had to talk about what I've observed so far. And if y'all have any comments, anything you'd like to add to this, any players or teams that have stood out to you, leave a comment. Engage with this video however you see fit. And hopefully we'll both be back on here next time. And see you later.